Welcome back, ladies and gents. I've got a lady here whose voice you might recognize even before you see her. She has been on radio for many, many years, and she's also a practicing lawyer, which is something that you may not know about her. She's a life coach, which is why we even have her here today. And we're about to tap into a serious conversation, but still make it light. Fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sharon.
Oh man, it's such an honor to have you here, and it's always interesting to sit down with people that I've worked with. Actually, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, we've worked together. And I've also been one of the people that's been inspired by you. I've heard you talk about your journey. We've sat down, and I think your story is just so incredible. So why don't we start there, Renee? How did you come about being a life coach? How did that come to be?
Well, the life coach story is a really interesting one because it is the story of having met somebody who was and been so inspired by them that I too wanted to be one. So Richard Bentley, if you're ever watching this show, was my own coach, and he had come at the tail end of what had been a really difficult time for me. I've told this story before. I'd been diagnosed with a condition that was life-threatening and that had a series of very, very difficult stages to it. I was very determined that I was not going to be ill, that I was not going to fall for that diagnosis, that I needed to change my own story and change my own path. And I embarked on a series of, I think adventures is the best way I could define it, to gain back my health. And in the process, to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, if I did have a rest of life. We always take for granted that, you know, we're going to grow older, and that we will probably die at some point in our sleep. You know, the fairy tale story of how this story ends, but it doesn't always end like that. And when you come to the reality that it doesn't, then it gives you a great opportunity to choose, well, what's my life going to be like while I have it? And so Richard Bentley, who was my own coach, was so inspiring. And at some point he said to me, if you were not my client, you would probably be my coach. You should think about doing this.
Whoa.
I had such high regard for this man. I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I went to the US for a while, and my very first non-client client, you know, the ones who say, do this to me because you're so good at it, and you think, I'm actually not trained at this, was an NBA basketball player, in fact.
What?
Yes, it was Chris Webber.
What?
And he was probably my first ever confirmation. If you ever need sort of the universe, spirit, God, you know, whatever, to say to you, go down this road. Sometimes you need affirmation from externally. It couldn't have been greater than, you know, an NBA player.
Right.
And then that took me on to the training. So I've trained with the Neurological Institute, formerly the Results Coaching Systems. And I'm what is called a results coach. Okay. So if you come to me, we better have a goal in mind. Great. None of the fluff bits.
Great. I like that, because we're about to now get into that a little bit, or touch on that. So given that it's the start of the year, it's often a time where people stop and reflect and see whether they want to align or just readjust things in their lives, and to try and figure out what direction they want for themselves. But that can also be a daunting space, especially if what is ahead of you is really your greatness, if that's what you're trying to step into. So why is that a terrifying thing for people to embrace and to be comfortable with their greatness?
Because we always look at the picture whole and not in part. And you look at this huge goal and you just think there's absolutely no way I could ever get there. So it becomes terrifying right at the start. We all know that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Oh, I have never heard that.
Have you never?
No.
Well, there you go. Now you know a new one. Although do not eat elephants, because obviously we're into conservation. Let's pick another animal. Maybe like how do you eat a cow? Let's work with cows.
Yes. This is the Renee version of that quote.
Yes, we're going to work with, how do you eat a cow? And it's one bite at a time. And And so you sort of look at this picture of who you want to be, and it's a beautiful picture, but it's also terrifying because you want to be fit, you want to have your finances in order, you want to have a great career, you want your children to be aligned, you want your husband, wife, better half spouse to be, you know, properly, you want to show up in the morning. It's too much. And what we forget is that no masterpiece was ever sort of zero and then complete.
Yeah.
There was always a process, and that process involved layers upon layers, and then time for the paint to dry, and then for, you know, the artist to come back and build a little bit more on it. And we forget also that life is a lot, art mirrors life a lot. That in art, as in life, particularly if you're sculpturing, you've got to get rid of what is not the thing. I think was it Michelangelo who did the statue of David, and said, well, when he looked at it, when he looked at the block of marble that he saw, all he saw was what was not David. So he didn't need to sort of sculpt David. He just needed to remove what wasn't.
Wow.
And David was left.
Yeah.
And so when we look at our goals, and if we look at our goals as I've got to be this masterpiece, and then you embark on being it starting today. We forget that there's nothing in nature or in life except that is artificial that shows up instantly.
Right.
Like before and after.
Yeah.
There's before, process, after. And there's never any end in life. We're always going to be in what Japanese call kaizen, continuous improvement. Because when you've come to the end, you've come to the end.
Yeah.
It's
over.
The end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you. So are there certain practices or daily habits that we can pick up that will allow us to slowly get there, so that there's no this, you know, big daunting thing? And I'm going to give the example of Adele, who we were just speaking to, and she has, you know, almost 4,000 people, you know, the youth, part of her initiative. And I think if she had just been told, here's 4,000, run with it, it would have been like, whoa, what's happening? And she slowly, you know, had to build to that. So are there tips that can allow us to be comfortable with, you know, getting there slowly and help us through that process that you talked about?
I love what Adele has done, and what an amazing woman. But I love also that her story is a public story, and we can follow Adele day 1, day 2, day 3. I'll move you away from sort of that achievement left brain orientation, and give you an example of something that we do naturally, that already in our own DNA is a great pathway from moving from step 1, which is already great. You're not stepping into your greatness. You're great as you are. You're fantastic. You've survived. You made it until this point. You're alive. Your circumstances may not be what you want them to be, but they sure are not what they could be. And each of us, whatever our station, we can always look at someone or at a situation and say, thank God I'm not there. So first, just understanding where you are is great as it is. So calm down. And then the second thing is having fun around it. So take an example of a child. Day 1, when baby's time to start walking, they sort of get up and sit down. And what do? We don't go, oh, you absolute failure. How could you not have walked on day 1? What is wrong with you? Have I not fed you milk? No. We clap, yay, well done, good job, do it again, baby. And then they stand again because they're looking for that approval, and then they plonk again, and then one day it's one step, and then it's grabbing everything, and at every stage there's encouragement, there's celebration, there's acknowledgement. Somehow we get to a point in life, around about school, when we don't celebrate the good. We're so busy pinpointing what wasn't. Why was it a B and not an A? Who else got an A if you got an A? Why was it not an A star? Can you get 100% instead of a 98% A? And forget to celebrate even the achievements, even the C achievement from the D, even the showing up and being there and trying. I think one of the greatest things that we could learn is to be our own greatest cheerleaders. Did you show up today, Sharon? Yay! You showed up.
I'm at work today.
You're at work. Look at that.
Oh.
Step one. Now, what are you going to do today that is going to be different from yesterday that you could celebrate? A second step?
Okay, right. So pause and be present and be grateful and thankful for, celebrate yourself, celebrate each stage. Okay, so I want to shift gears a little and talk about fulfillment, which is something that a lot of people are searching for, and particularly in their careers. They're looking for that sense of fulfillment in what they do, whether it's for a living, as a hobby. It's usually something that we're all looking for. What should one do if their career, their 9 to 5, isn't quite aligned with their fulfillment and isn't where they feel that their purpose is taking them?
Okay, I'm going to take a step back because there's a presumption in that statement that I think it would be good for us to interrogate, that we find fulfillment in what we do. That is very risky.
Okay.
To find fulfillment in what you do means that when you're not doing it, you have no right to feel fulfilled.
Right.
Do you want to go down that road? Right. Because we won't always be doing stuff that we enjoy. And therefore, if we peg fulfillment to an action, we're in trouble when that action doesn't show up.
So what should it be pegged on?
Fulfillment is in who you are.
Okay.
What are the values and the attributes, the things, the adjectives that are attached to the name Sharon? That people will say, this is S, stands for, And when you look at yourself, what do you know yourself for?
Right.
When you've put that out of the way, that I'm not fulfilled by an outcome, I'm fulfilled by myself.
Okay.
I am whole, complete, and perfect as I am.
Right.
And becoming and becoming and becoming.
Yeah.
Then first it takes away the pressure from action equals fulfillment.
Okay.
So then let's look at the second one, which
Wow, wait, I even want us to pause there for a second. Because it's sinking in. It's really sitting with me. And I don't want to just move on to the next part. But it's not what we do that makes us whole.
No.
It's who we are.
It's who we are.
And I guess in many ways that's what we think. If we're not successful in business, if we're not successful in marriage, if we're not successful in parenting, then we are nothing. We failed. We're incomplete. But that's not where it starts. It starts with an acknowledgement that I am whole as I am.
Yes.
And now let me see, I guess,
what else is there to play for?
To be, and to do, and to fill your, as your cup runneth over. It goes back to that, doesn't it?
And here's the thing, there's science behind this. There's science that has proven that you are at least 37% more likely to fulfill on something that you consider to be daunting when you are confident in yourself. Not even competent, confident. And here's the pop science around it. Walk into a room feeling all, today is, I know I'm on point today. And you see the reaction of people in the room. They gravitate towards you. Right. Come in on a day, same amount of competence, but on a day when you're not really feeling on point. It's a tougher day, and the reactions are very different.
Yeah.
The being whole in yourself, and that being the measure of your own purpose or of your achievement around purpose, since we're talking about achievement, and your own fulfillment. That has got to be the first place where we have it sorted.
Oh, wow. I really want to unpack this a little bit more. So what happens if someone's watching this and they're shrouded in self-doubt and that kind of lack of confidence and they're struggling with that notion that they are already whole? How do you then go towards creating, or rebuilding, reaffirming yourself?
So by nature and in childhood, we don't doubt until we reach around about the age of 4 and 5, when we start exploring and we start being told what the boundaries of our exploration are. And when we hear the word bad, and bad comes with an emotion, and because we are emotionally intuitive as children. We pick bad is what I shouldn't be, good is what I should be, and then that's reinforced consistently by all the bad things that you've done and not adequately by all the good things that you've done. So if you're sitting watching this and you're thinking, well, you know what, I've messed up so much in my life. I'm not where I should be. I'm not, all of those things that one tells oneself as the reason why you're not allowed, you cannot give yourself permission to be confident in yourself. Well, first interrogate who's talking, whose voice is that? And is it really you? Or is it some expectation that was put on you by somebody in authority who at the time you didn't have the power to engage, or you didn't have the words to engage? And so it sank into you and became part of you. So you're not married, or divorced, or don't have a child, or don't have the right job, or didn't finish school, don't have the qualifications. Whose voice is that told you that?
Oh my gosh, this is a conversation that feels that it needs an hour to unpack. And I want to. We have to go on a break real quick, but I want to touch on something that you've said, that we're left with these scars and don't always understand where it stems from. And I have to tell you this story about a child who did a piece of art and was so proud of it, brought it home. But when their dad saw it, they were like, oh God, really? We're using pink now? And from then on, you sort of put that to the side and you don't allow yourself to do anything that might bring out that kind of criticism.
So here's what I want to say just really quickly before we go into the break. That when you understand that fulfillment is not out there, then we stem very many things that we see in society already that are a problem. Because as long as fulfillment is out there on what I do and what I have and how people perceive me, then I've got to be continuously in this rat race. I've got to have a bigger car, a better job,
bigger house. Kids have to all be smart, right?
Smartest husband, best body.
Your children have to be this, and you pass that on, don't you?
And there's no fun in it, and then there's no fulfillment in it, and so you get to the place where you outwardly have it all, and inside you're empty, and the things that are around you tenuously, and they want to leave because your energy is all wrong. Perhaps the first place to look is to get it sorted within, and then using that same energy, because you can still accomplish those same things, is to go hell for leather for what it is that you want and who it is that you want to be, knowing at every stage who I am right now is making the best decisions that she can make right now in this place that she is with the knowledge that she has, and that this knowledge that I'm gaining now is going to make me make a different or a better or decision in the next moment. And that brings back the mindfulness that in this moment, I'm whole, complete, and perfect, and you need to move out of the way because I am coming for the next moment.
I love that. Renee, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to be back here and we'll have to talk more about mindfulness. That's actually one of the ways that we've connected in the past and having that discussion. Thank you so much, Renee. We could have been talking for hours, but we have to take a break and we'll be back in a moment.